this, I wanted to talk about my parents. And in a 6 to 8 minute speech, to talk about their life experiences, there's no way, it's just too little time. So I'm going to pick just a few things about their life and how they went about it. So my dad, he was born in a small village in India, and then his father moved to a bigger city for employment purposes, found himself a job as a clerk in one of the government offices. He was a 5th grade educated person, so not very educated. My dad was the second of 2 children. He was very naughty to begin with, liked to play around, not study so much. And my dad, my grandfather knew that education was the only way out, so he kept wanting him to go study, do something. Nothing. When he was in 5th grade, his older brother bought an air rifle. And my dad loved to hunt. So he wanted to use that rifle, but his brother wouldn't let him. So he went to my grandfather, his father, and he said, "Can you buy me a rifle?" He said, "Well, your brother, he came first in his class, and back then they would get cash awards. So he got the money and he went and he bought his rifle, and so he did the same thing." So that's when he turned his life around, so to speak. He became a very serious student, and he started to get top positions in class, and he never looked back. So he got an undergraduate in languages, Arabic and Farsi, which is Persian. He got a postgraduate degree in law. And right about this time, it was about 1947, that time frame, and the British were leaving India. The people of India had got their independence. The country was split into 2, India and Pakistan. People were moving from one country to another. There's a big mass migration going on. And he remembers one evening his friends came over to him and said, "We are going to Pakistan. You're more than welcome to come with us." So he had a quick meeting with his parents. They gave him his blessing. He packed his bag, and they all took off. It's a long train ride from Hyderabad to Bombay. Then from Bombay, you jump on a ship and you go over to Karachi, which is in Pakistan. A very chaotic time, lots of violence, looting, all this kind of stuff going on. So in all the commotion and everything, his baggage got lost or was stolen or something. So he got off the boat literally with just the shirt on his back. That's all they had. He wasn't the only one. There's a group of them, And they ended up in this place outside of the city. They would all sleep under the stars. There was nothing, they were all, migrants from somewhere else, and started to look for a job. So now, you got an interview. And so how do you prepare for this interview? So you borrowed shoes from one person, shirt from somebody else, tie, jacket, wore it all, and went to the interview. So he's sitting over there, and the interviewee turned out to be a Britisher. And so the interview was okay. At the end of the interview, the Britisher tells him, there's only 2 occasions where somebody would wear a black tie. He was wearing a black tie. He said the one occasion is if it's a funeral. The second occasion if it's somebody's marriage. So he says, "Excuse me, there is a 3rd occasion." So he says, "What is that?" He says, "When we don't have any other tie." So he was so impressed with that answer, he immediately gave him the job. And then my dad was off and running. He joined the Foreign Service, and he was posted to Canada. So just imagine, from India to Karachi, Pakistan, unknown place, now being shipped overseas, don't know any English or hardly any English, have to be shipped over. So, but before he did that, he said, well, I need to get married. You know. So then he goes back to India, and he marries my mom. She hasn't seen him, he hasn't seen her. They get married, and then they both leave and go to India. My mom is also an accomplished lady. She's also a college graduate, which back then was sort of way out there. And then they just made a life of it, you know. So how much time do we have here? Okay, and then what happens is that he goes from Canada to England to Indonesia to Thailand to Turkey. He's roaming around the world, you know, one by one, just seeing all these different countries. My conclusion is, look guys, you know, we all have stories to tell. Our lives mean something, and no matter what the humble beginnings might be, you never know where you're going to end up. Thank you.